April Higashi has been working as a contemporary studio jeweler, curator, and gallery owner in the San Francisco Bay Area for 25 years. In 2005, she founded Shibumi Gallery alongside her own jewelry studio in a 3-level live-work space in Berkeley, California. She recently moved the gallery, where she exhibits her own work and showcases the talents of a wide community of jewelers and makers, to a nearby retail space. She'll speak today on her home, studio, and gallery, and the journey of building a career and family life around personal creativity.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be at a point in my career where people are interested in how I built my life. I'm hoping to share my story in an authentic way, and perhaps you'll be inspired, or maybe you'll think, thank God I didn't take that route. In any case, I hope I can validate some part of the creative process for you and how I incorporate life and work. I am a maker. I always have been ever since I was a kid. My making turned into a career as a jeweler and gallery owner of Shibumi Gallery in Berkeley, California. I'm a mother of one 11-year-old boy, Ando, who I amicably co-parent with his father, Eric Powell. He is a successful sculptor. He was 6 in this photo that was taken from a spread in American Craft. In essence, I have created 3 jobs for myself: jeweler, gallerist, mother. My presentation will be broken down in this triptych after a short intro of where I am today. For those of you who don't know me, I want to start with where I am currently. This is a current shot of Shibumi Gallery in Berkeley's premier 4th Street shopping area. I was fortunate enough to be invited to move down and try it during the pandemic. My old gallery space has been in a commercial section of my live-work building. I'll share photos of that later. I thought, why not try it? My son is now 11. He can be left at home for remote school. The Goldsmiths are downstairs. He can scoot down to visit me at lunchtime. It was a 5-minute walk from my home and studio. During the pandemic, I figured, what else better to do than throw myself into a creative project? The amazing thing is, it really improved my son's executive functioning skills. He liked the independence and having more freedom. The opportunity made us both grow. The space is 750 square feet, which includes an upstairs loft. I show up to 40 artists. We do around 6 shows a year. The focus is in contemporary studio jewelry. I show both art and fine jewelry and curate fine art to complement the jewelry. My immediate support group consists of 11 staff members that make up my creative team. I've gotten really good at delegating over the years, especially after I had my son. I feel like part of my curating process is assembling a good team. This is part of the reason I can wear so many hats and get so much done. Great staff! Exclamation point. This is actually the hardest part of my job. But how did I get here, and what does my life look like, and how have I incorporated creativity throughout my life and have a family in the Bay Area? So the question I often get asked is, what am I? I am Japanese, German, and French in that order. I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the foothills of the mountains. In high school, I was voted most likely not to live in Utah, and I felt like that was a great compliment. In retrospect, I think maybe they were trying to tell me otherwise. Since then, I have lived in the San Francisco Bay Area all my adult life. I still miss the aspen groves. My earliest mentor and person besides my mother who validated my creativity was my grandfather, Tutu, who was a painter in Hawaii. He taught art, traveled the world any chance he had. Tutu is a term of endearment for grandparents in Hawaiian. He would stop in Utah in his way home from Las Vegas and hand my brother and me a crisp $100 bill. He loved Keno. I remember he would take me out and we would go draw. He barely spoke, but he would help me set up my materials and then settle in himself. It was always me he identified with as the artist in the family, and that made a huge impression. This is especially rare in Asian culture, to give the attention to the girl. I also noticed he took me to do things he wanted to do. These are some drawings from his travel. There were hundreds of bundles from each place he traveled in his studio. In honor of my grandpa Tutu, I use his chop in my own work as a stamp on the back of some of my pieces or inside a ring band. The red stamp is the chop that he used on his paintings. His full last name was Higashi. The gold ones are mine. Higashi means east and Machi means town. My grandfather had beautiful handwriting. I also loved to write. When my mother asked me in second grade what I wanted to do, I told her I wanted to be a writer. She smiled with excitement. "What kind of books do you want to write?" "Oh, I didn't really want to write books. I just liked writing, the letters. I liked seeing how all the letters fit together." "Oh, a calligrapher," she sighed. Just as writing was about marks for me, I think a basis for some of my earlier enamel work was about mark making. Here are some examples of mark making done in watercolor and the finished pieces in painted enamel. These pieces are about how the marks go down next to each other. You can also probably see that my background's in textiles from these pieces. The enamel textures are built up and painted with up to 40 firings. My BFA degree was in fine art with an emphasis in textiles. My second pivotal mentor was June Schwartz. She passed away a few years ago. June was an amazing person. Meeting her once would change your life. She was a well-known enamel artist who loved form, beauty, and had a fabulous eye. We both loved clothes. I was her assistant for a couple years and spent many years after visiting her, borrowing books, trading stories, sharing meals, and ice cream. I like the concept of shibusa, which is a Japanese term which means an openness to nature and appreciation of irregular forms. I identify with this when I design and find inspiration. The years I spent at the bench, I was not the perfect, exact German jeweler. My forms always came out a little less than perfect. The skills that I lacked in my hands, I developed in my eye. In retrospect, this skill was significant and was the baseline that I built the rest of my career on. My work recently has been about visual documentation, absorbing what is around me. My boyfriend and his son and I often travel. I incorporate what I see into my work. After my divorce, I was attracted to erosion in landscapes. Healing my life, I spent time in the tide pools with our kids and played around with casting organic materials that I found on my travels. The gold ring on the upper right is meant as an impression of the tide pools. I have always loved placing things. Honestly, I truly get excited when things look good next to each other. I love the art of placement, how each mark, shape, or color goes down by the next one. These are just a few random shots of things I arranged on my desk. I just can't stop putting things in their place. The last mentor I want to talk about is Susan Cummins. She founded the Susan Cummins Gallery in Mill Valley, California. She was the first gallerist who really showed art jewelry right next to the fine art. She also founded the Art Jewelry Forum, which brings collectors and artists together. When I worked for her gallery, she had a show, Jewelry as Object, and asked me to help put together the vignettes of the jewelry and art. They came together effortlessly. I like making things, but I knew I enjoyed the bigger vision of what a show could look like and the concepts behind them. Here is a shot of a cabinet of curiosities I have in my home. The art of placement and my experience working with Susan led me to want to start a gallery. So how have I raised my son with so much responsibility and a demanding career? Honestly, sometimes I'm just a mom, and other times I just fold him into my work. Two examples I can share. During the pandemic, when the kids were home from school, I had scheduled a gallery show called Process, featuring 10 artists and their process of making. Here is a shot of him redisplaying the gallery for the show. I taught him how to arrange things. that one can make things look calming or chaotic depending on how you place them, and then I let him play around and make things with his own eye and see what looked good. We talked about it later. Because people could not come see the show easily, my son taught me some basics of filmmaking on iMovie. I made short videos of each artist to share their process with visual images. That was fun to have him teach me something too, and learn a new visual language. For myself, I decided to share my enameling process, then taught Ando how to enamel and documented it for the series. We made some really great ninja-inspired enamels. The films can be seen on the website in the artist section. I'd say one of the reasons I've been able to do so much is my studio and home are in the same building, which I bought in West Berkeley, California. I was raised upper middle class and had help with my college education. After that, I was on my own. I have built Shibumi with all my own money. I know that many artists are partially supported, and I have nothing against that, but that is not me. I did have the help and support from my ex-husband Eric Powell, who built me very beautiful displays and whatever I needed for the space, and that is not nothing. The reason I share this is so you have a real reference point. Buying the building to have the space to do what I said I'd always wanted to do was one of the scariest things I've ever done. It is also the reason I can have a career and be a mother in a sane way, especially when Ando was young. When I found this place, I was excited about its many spaces and environments that could be created. It was very raw, but I have slowly upgraded the spaces. This is the old gallery space that continues to be my office. I have filled it with plants and now call it the conservatory. We may have openings here in the future to connect clients to the studio and build community. If you walk through a door in the back of the old gallery space, this is our studio. The adjoining room is open to a huge yard with bamboo and sculptures that I use for my staff. It also has a design studio for myself and my son. Shibumi means a subtle, unobtrusive beauty cherished by artists and connoisseurs. I thought it would be fun to include a shot of the very early Shibumi. Here are some cards of my earlier shows and identity. The gallery is now going on 16 years old. April Higashi Jewelry and Shibumi Gallery are my two identities. I have the largest selection of my work at Shibumi. I do, however, maintain a handful of other galleries and a few wholesale accounts. I have chosen not to do shows so that I can be around for my son and also have some balance in my life. Being an artist means that it's all about you. After a while, I wanted my life to be more than just about me. Now I want to talk about a conflict that a woman has. I'm not sure you can have it all. I think the part of your career where you really need to push to get established comes right at the point when you need to decide if you want to have kids. My story is one where I could not get pregnant for 6 years. And so at that point, my business was luckily a little more established. While running a business and raising my young son, it had me constantly interrupted. I did learn a few things about being a parent that I can bring into my business. I think having a kid has really taught me patience. I bring that to try to understand my staff and even my very difficult clients. I think also having such a full life and wanting to make time for my son, I have learned not to procrastinate. I just go ahead and do things. I've always tried to create space for my son that mirrors interesting creative things to do, and now he's making his own animations and finding out who he really wants to be. As you can see by the photo of Ando on the welding table, his dad did the same thing. Ando has been surrounded by making art with me and his dad. Here he is at the bench. He's even been a bartender at some of my openings. When American Craft did an article on me, they even featured Ando. This was very special for me, too. I encouraged his dad to bring him to the studio. Of course, you cannot get as much done when there's a child there, but the shared experience that influences them is so satisfying. The second floor of my building is an open-plan living space with a kitchen, living room, and a converted deck that is now my son's room. I like to think of the levels as 3 sections of my life. First floor, work. Second floor, live. And the upstairs has a tiny bedroom and bath that conveys sleep. A little nest to get away from it all. I don't like to give advice. I try to live by example. I'll end by sharing some things that have always been important to me. I try to do something creative every day. I strive to build community that values creativity and we support each other. I don't expect them just to support me. I make time for my son, but include him in what I'm doing in a way that is hopefully meaningful to him. I take small risks to grow and learn. I try to live my life with integrity, being totally myself, and I try to share that to inspire others. In conclusion, I will quickly share some portfolio pages. They are also on my April Higashi jewelry website. You can see that my work, my art jewelry, my fine jewelry, and my custom work flow into each other. I collage in my travel photos, my drawings, and my inspiration. My work and personal life is laced through everything I do. My personal life flows into my business life and back again. This is just who I am. You can follow me on Instagram at Shibumi_gallery to see the work we carry in the gallery and current shows, or April_Higashi to see all parts of my life, including Ando. I want my life to be a creative journey. I am someone who is visually attuned to beauty and the creative process. I reflect on my inner life and value relationships in my life, making work and building a community. Thank you.